Hey guys, welcome to another Double Tap on YouTube. I am Stephen Scott.
And I am Shaun Preece. Hello.
Listen, great to be back with you, Shaun, because I want to talk about Microsoft and the new Copilot Plus PCs. Everyone is excited about them. Are you?
Oh, I am extremely excited. This feels like the iPhone coming out, changing the smartphone, mobile phone universe. This is how big I see this. This is changing Windows PCs forever. And I'm not exaggerating, probably.
No, I don't think you are. I mean, look, when Apple switched to silicon and moved away from Intel, I remember at the time there were these graphs they showed on screen, and the graphs apparently had no labels on them. So you had no idea what these graphs were even representing. It was just like an arrow going up, like, look how powerful this thing is. And everyone's like, yeah, but that doesn't have any labels on it. We don't know what that is in relation to what. Is it like, bananas to oranges? I mean, what are we talking about here? What does any of this mean? And then we got hands-on with Apple Silicon, and we're like, oh, wow. We don't know what that silly graph meant, but it was right. It was amazing. And the difference it made to speed, to efficiency, to power, no longer were you getting those fans spinning up. And I remember thinking at the time, God, I wish this would come to Microsoft, because what a difference it would make if we could get a Microsoft machine to behave like this. And, it's interesting because I'm going to talk about recall, because Windows Recall, which was kind of the big feature that was touted at the Surface event earlier in the year, that was the one that everybody was excited about. Everyone was jumping up and down saying, oh, recall, that's so cool. You can easily search, blue dress, and it'll bring up that blue dress you were searching for the other day, even if you never searched for the word blue dress. Even if you never, did anything around blue dress, it knew you were looking for that particular thing in your search history. Yeah. That was amazing. But unfortunately, that has gone to the side, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So there's not a huge amount of features that are making these Copilot Plus PCs attractive. And that's the headline, it seems, in a lot of the mainstream tech press. But I think the big story here is this shift to the Snapdragon X Plus and X Elite processors. That's a huge part of this, because it is going to bring that power, that efficiency to PCs. Now, the question I have for you is, do you think that what they've promised, and remember on stage, they said that the new Surface, I think it was the new Surface laptop or the new Surface Pro, was going to be 58% faster than a MacBook Air M3.
Yeah.
Is that what you're seeing in terms of what people are saying already about the speeds from these initial tests people are doing?
No, we definitely are not. But we're at the time of recording this, we haven't actually seen benchmarks of the Surface PCs, or at least I haven't yet. So it is tricky, because everyone got so excited because we got the Qualcomm Snapdragon Elite. It has so much potential, so much promise to it. Now, whether it delivers on that, who knows? Could it ever? I mean, are the expectations too high? I don't know. But I don't think it actually matters. Even if they bring out these latest generation of laptops powered by the Snapdragon Elites, and they're not great, let's say, I don't think it matters, because we are in that cycle now. We are in that transition. The next Intel processors will be likely to be ARM-based. The Lunar, I believe they're called Lunar Lake. Everyone is going to be shifting away from the old architecture, which is x86, into this new ARM processor entirely. So it doesn't even matter if these sort of don't make that hit the expectations that we all have for them, because the next generation will, or the generation after that. The point is that this massive oil tanker that is Windows has started to turn. We are moving away from those high energy consuming, those hot running processors, and we are moving to ARM, and that's only going to be a good thing. I'm not sure what to expect of this latest generation, of this first generation, I should say, but I hope it's going to be impressive. I really do, because I think that will make people far more trusting of where we're heading, because we're heading there whether this first generation works or not.
Yeah. Shall we hear what Microsoft has to say on this? So Jason Brommet is from Microsoft, and he has been talking to us to talk about a range of different topics relating to the Surface Pro launch, accessibility, and of course, recall. But here's what he had to say regarding the Snapdragon processors and what they will do for power and efficiency.
I think about it, I'll say maybe in a couple of camps. So one, which is performance and reliability. And the statistics I'll say as we've gone through, and if you watch any of the announcements from the Copilot Plus PC, everyday battery life, right? Which is we are often disconnected, inaccessible to power cords, whatever the case may be. And so we are continuing to iterate against Snapdragon-based devices, run with a high degree of efficiency. They're natively, I'll say, in mobile phones, and we know what the experience is. Computing devices obviously require a little more power. And so being able to create great experiences, I'll say natively, and I'll say the traditional computing experience. The second big piece, which is, I'll say, very closely related to the AI software sort of evolution that we're in the midst of, is the hardware evolution. And frankly, the introduction of the NPU, as it's called, or the neural processing unit. Think about it no more, and not to make it all big speeds and feeds, which is a second chip that you can offload capabilities to. Right, we're used to GPUs, I'll say, and most people will have a frame of reference of that. NPUs now enable you to bring those AI experiences directly into the hardware. And so you can now, I'll say, access those AI capabilities without necessarily being connected. And so again, we know we have those moments where we are not in moments of connectivity, whether that be less so these days on airplanes, but it could be at the cottage. I was talking to somebody last week around remote working in the summer, and what does that look like? We now can bring those AI experiences naturally into the device without having the dependency on cost or on cloud, which at the same time, we also know cloud computing requires huge amounts of compute. And so if we can offload some of that and do so in an economic and environmental way, bringing it right to the PC, that's exactly what the NPU is all about.
So that gives you a sense of the power that is, or at least has the potential to drive these new PCs in a new way. And, early reports are interesting. And I think it all depends on who you're listening to. I am a little bit nervous around some of the results I'm hearing about, because it tends to, I imagine, come from the Apple lovers and the Microsoft Windows lovers. It doesn't seem that there's many unbiased viewpoints out there. Would you agree with that? Because, when I'm looking at these reviews and I hear people say, it's not as good as a MacBook Air, I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it not being up there with an M3, silicon MacBook Air. I mean, I'm okay with that, because it can only be. I want to know what it's like compared to the previous generation, or even a high-end Intel Core PC or an AMD processor PC.
Well, it's so difficult now when it comes to reviewing something like this, because tech specs, where they used to be so important, the first thing I wanted to know is how many megahertz did a CPU run at. Now we're at gigahertz, and how much RAM it's got. Now people don't really care so much about that. Of course, you dig into it, and if you're a bit of a geek and a bit of a nerd, but people just want to know, okay, how long does it take to boot up? When I turn this thing on, how long before I can use it? How quick does it take to load up apps or whatever it may be? But the thing is that the companies themselves set them up for these sort of criticisms, because if they go out and say, hey, this is 58% faster than an M3 MacBook running Apple Silicon, then of course the first thing people are going to do is go out and test that and say, no, it isn't. Or, no, it isn't in this situation. It is in this situation. It's so many different tests. We're going back to the unlabeled bar charts again, or graphs. Yeah. What context does that have? You just don't know. It is very tricky. I honestly don't know. We've had a few false starts when it comes to Windows and ARM in the past, and Microsoft themselves have tried doing the ARM processors and Windows for ARM, and they just haven't taken off at all. Windows RT, does anyone remember that? So, but it seems now that a lot more people are on board. Everyone wants this to work. And from what I hear, even if the performance, and that's what I'm hearing, the performance sometimes isn't as good as people were expecting it to be, but the software side of it, Windows itself, the way that the ARM apps are running, as in very reliable and fast enough, and also the way that the emulation is running, so running those old Windows programs are running okay as well. And that's all you need. As long as your computer is still usable as it was before, like you said, I think that may be enough, with the extra benefits of battery life and quick turn off, turn on, sleep, hibernation, whatever it may be. Will this make people go out and upgrade what they've got currently? I don't think so. But when it comes to their next computer, I think it's going to be ARM no matter what.
Yeah, I agree. My next PC is an ARM-based machine without shadow of doubt. You know, I get a little bit ahead of that because we were playing with this with the macOS Silicon updates. You could actually put this ARM version of Windows that in beta form onto a Mac and run it. And, you know, it's funny because I heard so many people saying, oh, it's a terrible experience. It's not great. You know, look, it had some drawbacks, but I think that was more to do with the emulation and what we were trying to do with it. If you're trying to audio edit on a virtual machine, you're going to face some challenges. If you're sending an email and I'm using a screen reader with that, you know, I'm putting it to its test, but I'm kind of doing what most people might do. And it worked well. It behaved well. So I had a lot of hope for what was coming down the line with ARM processors in PCs. So this is definitely, I think, the time. And by all accounts, these new Surface Pros are incredible. The keyboard is a lot better as well. And that's something which got a mention in the overall presentation. I thought it was quite interesting, actually. Under the sort of heading of accessibility, they've brought out this new, what they call the Surface Pro Flex keyboard. And it has an alternative option, which I don't think is available yet to buy, but will no doubt be coming soon, which has a larger typeset on it with bold lettering and, of course, backlighting as well. So much easier to see for people who have low vision. I'd love to know if it comes in the various colors, because it seems it might be available in black and that's it. I'd kind of like to have seen it in the sapphire or the red or whatever the colors are of the different keyboards, because it'd be kind of nice to get some contrast options out there. They did this, interestingly, with the school, as you might call it, the school Surface laptop that came out a while ago. They had a sort of large text version of that. And I'd like to see that applied more across the other parts of the range. But they're trying to do it with style. That's, I think, the thing. They're trying to build in accessibility, but into the style, so it doesn't feel like you're standing out having this. And I think that's quite smart. They also talked about their haptic touchpad, which was very interesting. We're going to hear actually someone who's been on the show before, Solomon Romney from Microsoft, demonstrating how that works for him, and some other cool stuff as well. Let's get back to Jason, who outlines some of those accessibility announcements that were made on stage during the event.
Obviously, Copilot Plus PCs is, I'll say, a market capability. And we're going to see incredible devices and are seeing incredible devices coming from our OEM partners. But let me start with and talk about Surface. For us, Surface has always been built to empower everyone. And these devices are really no different. We've really built, I'll call it, adaptability into the fabric of our hardware. And then obviously, I'll say the software that is connected so that they're mutually, I'll say in many ways, inclusive by design. One of what I think is incredibly powerful, and again, in that sort of sense of inclusiveness, is the haptic touchpad. This is the most inclusive touchpad on the market. And again, it's really this fusion of our software and our hardware development teams coming together to create great experience. But it allows consumers to use the touchpad with different parts of their limbs. It could be their palms, it could be their feet, it could be, I'll say, traditional, input digits as we think about it. The motor in the touchpad basically delivers this incredible sort of tactile feedback that simulates the feeling of physical clicks or taps, giving a more natural and intuitive and immersive experience when you're using a device.
So as you can see, I was born without fingers on my left hand. And what that has caused is during my entire life, I've had to use my right hand for everything. And so a lifetime of double duty has led me to now having what would normally be career-ending conditions earlier in my career. So things like carpal tunnel and arthritis and tendonitis and all of that. So in order to preserve and give a chance to heal the things that are going on in my right hand, I need to be able to shift functions to my left, which traditionally touchpads are not responsive at all to the work I do here. And because I'm a professional on the go, I can't be taking a whole ergonomic setup with me. So I turn on the adaptive touch mode here, and all of a sudden, I now have full mouse control.
The second one you touched on, which is inclusive keyboards, and the Surface Pro Flex keyboard comes in an optional bold key set version, which offers larger, bolder font, high contrast, and brighter backlighting to illuminate the keys and improve visibility. And so many of us, I'll say, have those moments where we're working in low light environments, but there's also individuals that are, I'll say from a visibility point of view, need those higher contrasts or those larger bold fonts. And so again, this sort of idea that says innovation for few becomes usability for many, you can think about just a diverse set of experiences that we want to unlock with the Surface Pro keyboard. And then the last one I'll touch one, and you and I talked about this once upon a time or a little while ago, which is our adaptive accessories. Our next-gen Surface AR devices are compatible, obviously, with our adaptive accessories. And so things like the adaptive mouse, which is a compact mouse created for those with difficulty using, I'll say, a traditional mouse, or anybody that wants to be able to customize a mouse unique to their needs. And so being able to create, again, this great fusion of software and hardware to deliver an incredible experience for our users is what it's all about.
So an interesting mix there of features coming and also features that are already available. I mean, in the video we saw there, Solomon Romney was actually testing out this on the previous version, or I guess last year's edition of the Surface Studio laptop. But of course, that's now available across more devices. And we kind of hope that would be the case. Accessibility shouldn't be limited to a pro or high-end premium product. It should be available to everything. And the fact that they're building something like that in across the ranges is fantastic. The keyboard is cool as well. And of course, those adaptive accessories. And again, it's so important to say this, Shaun. Microsoft putting this right at the heart of what they're doing, the heart of the presentation, when, let's be honest, they had plenty to talk about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we get so excited as soon as we hear any mention of accessibility in any major mainstream event, any keynote. I mean, we lose our minds, right? Because it's, wow, they actually remembered that we exist.
Yeah.
And I'm not aiming that just at Microsoft. That's every single company out there. It's so nice just to know that we are being thought about and even mentioned in the mainstream, not hidden away. And I've got to say, when it comes to adaptive controllers, I think Microsoft are really leading the way here. I know Sony also have their video game controller, adaptive controller, but Microsoft are always pushing this out. They're always changing it. The ability to 3D print different like joysticks and controllers, not using, as with the trackpad, able to use it with different limbs. It's absolutely amazing, and it's just so nice to see that work going on.
We have to mention Recall because it was the big feature that was announced at that event when, everyone was excited. Carolina Hernandez took to the stage, someone who's been on our show before. Now she's now working, or at least was working, in the Recall department of Microsoft, I guess. I think that may have been recalled in itself. But, that has obviously gone by the wayside for now. Essentially, there was a concern about encryption of the data that was being stored, as the system was taking screenshots every few seconds of your system in order for it to build up that picture of your use on the system, so that when you go back and ask about the blue dress, it actually knows what you're talking about. It has those screenshots to reference. The data, it seemed, was being stored in an unencrypted way. And that, of course, scared a lot of people, Shaun.
Rightfully so. I mean, how could it be stored in an unencrypted fashion? There must be thousands of screenshots it must be taking. So absolutely, it's the right thing to do to hold off on Recall. If it's not secure, then it's just not fit for purpose, because the amount of information that some bad actor, some hacker could get from just access to that sort of data dump is absolutely, wow, I don't even want to think about. So absolutely right to hold it back. They're not saying they finished it and it's gone away. This will come out at some point, and I hope it does, because it is really useful. But maybe it just needs a little bit more thought. And hey, maybe Microsoft's as guilty as the rest of us are getting just a little bit carried away with AI and what it could do.
Well, let's hear what Microsoft has to say. Jason Brommet has been talking to our very own Mark Aflalo over on Access Tech Live.
The easiest way that I think about this, and I'll put it very much, I'll say, in a first-party experience, meaning my lived experience. We always have these moments in time where we want to go find that last document, that last file, that last browser, whatever the case may be, that last experience. Finding information is not something that we as humans get a lot of energy out of. It's frankly a somewhat exhausting and frustrating experience. And so the idea and the principle in behind Recall was the ability to build basically that explorable visual timeline of what it is that you've been working on. Obviously, from that point of view, is the ability is ensuring that it was protected and encrypted and stored and managed locally on those Copilot Plus PCs. And so we wanted to be able to create that experience for people to be able to go back easily and find that reference point, right? And be able to do that in a very natural visual way, because sometimes file names aren't always, I'll say, logical. And so that visual reference was really an empowering experience to be able to go back over your timeline to say, where is that file or that document or that web page that I was looking at, and be able to find it very quickly. And so for me, similar to you, I'm super excited about it, right? The ability to go back in time and find things very quickly. I hate having to search. I really do. It's just one of those frustrating experiences. But to your comment, we've heard the feedback, and I think it's a great opportunity, as we often do, which is release it, I'll say, in smaller circles, get the feedback, the real-time consensus and input from our consumer users as well as our commercial users, to make sure that we design it that meets the needs of our customers wherever they are.
When do you think we're going to see Recall make its way into the software?
It's hard to say, Mark. I think it's, I'll say that the jury's out. We want to make sure that we do the due diligence. We respond to the feedback from our business customers, I'll say, as well as consumers, and make sure we design a capability or an ability and a feature that everybody sees value in, but most importantly, protects privacy and security, which we know is super important these days.
So there you go. And that is just part of the conversation, because we talked a lot more to Jason Brommet, and you can watch that in full coming up on Access Tech Live. You can catch that episode in the coming week. And of course, we'll put the episode link in the show notes here on YouTube, so you can catch it if you're watching this after the show airs. But, clearly Microsoft have taken this seriously, Shaun. They are not going to jump ahead with Recall. They've decided it's time to put it to bed for now. And like they say, actually put this out to smaller circles of people, test it out, and hopefully it'll come back in a better form. Although, to be perfectly honest, if they just encrypted the data, it would be solved.
I think there must be more to this encryption story, because there's no way they didn't encrypt it or just forgot about it. There must be some technical reason going on behind the scenes. But as you said, a really useful feature. I hope they saw it out.
Yeah. Well, tell us your thoughts on the new Copilot Plus PCs. Are you going to be getting one? We're going to be talking to various manufacturers over the next few weeks here on the show. So listen out for Lenovo. We want to talk to Dell. We want to talk to them all, because they're all creating these. Samsung as well are coming out with them. Everyone's creating Copilot Plus PCs. That is going to be the new standard, it would appear, going forward. But of course, Snapdragon is not going to be the only game in town. Intel are going to be coming up against with their version, possibly AMD doing the same. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Yeah. So, clearly all of this is going to be leading to a very interesting time for PCs. More importantly for us, as screen reader users, it might make those JAWS go on silent moments or NVDA's disappeared moments less often, which would be kind of cool. Anyway, drop your thoughts in below on the video. And of course, you can email us at any time. Feedback at doubletaponair.com. Call us 1-877-803-4567. Until next time, goodbye. Thank you, Shaun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.